Shucks, hope you're well. Let me get the elephant out of the room immediately. Are you disappointed that the talks with Dean didn't like progress as smoothly as it did, and that he had actually this is his last series? But conversely, are you also happy to have his experience for a high-profile series like this as his last assignment?
Hello, Hans. Yeah, let's get the elephant out the room. The conversation and the decision and the outcomes have been exactly how Dean and I have discussed it. So it's whilst it was a surprise to me that certain journalists had wind of it earlier, that was the surprise. But it's absolutely no surprise to me that we're at the place where Dean has decided to retire against India. So yeah, very comfortable and thrilled to have Dean available for the series. It's a massive series for us as a team, and obviously a huge series for Dean now. It's going to be quite an emotional one, and hopefully we can give him the perfect send off as well.
Follow-up, you know, looking at Dean and how would you place him, in the broader comprehensive United planning that he has added, and what South Africa is going to miss now that he's gone?
I think Dean almost epitomizes what a South African cricketer is about, and almost a South African as a person is about: resilience, dogfight, um, pride in performance, and also that ability to never back down, and I think those are all the elements that Dean has brought in his extensive both international and first class career. That's what Dean has brought to all the sides that he's played in. And I think that's hopefully if some of the young bucks that are going to be stepping up into those big shoes, if they can have half of the characteristics and the qualities that Dean had, if they can have half of it, then I think we're in a good space.
Well, I was actually going to move on to another topic,
Carry on, please.
and that is on September. It's Lungi's KG, I think, who has the 2026 World Cup. Just in terms of, just real day as far as Riyadh is concerned, and then the follow-up of that is what are your concerns about the fact that they haven't played competitive cricket in such a long time?
Um, the first question, the last question first. What are my concerns? Um, I've always been a firm believer in best when fresh. So they'll be fresh, they'll be firing. Um, it's like riding a bicycle for a lot of them. Obviously, the ideal would have been for them to have gotten some mileage in the legs in the 4 day game. But and it's life happens, and you've got to find a way from there. So I'm not in the least bit concerned that they'll be undercooked in any way. Both KG and Lungi are still in the squad and up for selection. We'll make that decision tomorrow. They haven't been replaced. So, yeah, hopefully tomorrow morning we've got a full squad of 15 that we can select 11 from.
Coach, India has not been able to win a test series in the last 32 years straight tours. How much that is going to be a factor considering the fact that some of the new members are part of this Indian team? And on the other hand, if you look at India has managed to beat Australia back to back in the last couple of years. So how much that those two teams, going to help South Africa?
Yeah, I think we'd be lying if we didn't take cognizance of that. We know what history tells us, and if it was ever possible to make the series even bigger, then that makes it bigger. That India have never won here, and we certainly can hold on to that proud record and make sure that it doesn't happen. But India in itself is the biggest series that we're going to play this year. Um, so, like you said, I think it's been dubbed the final frontier back in India, um, and we're going to be doing our damnness to ensure that they don't conquer this final frontier.
And following on to that, India, if you look at the record of Indian batsmen, especially in countries like South Africa, it's been not great. Even someone like Sachin Tendulkar or Rahul, they haven't averaged 50, which they have done throughout the world. Virat Kohli is the only batsman who has averaged 50 in Test cricket. Yeah. So how much Virat as a batsman will be a big factor considering the fact that he was in tremendous touch in the World Cup?
Look, Virat stays I think there's a top 5 in world cricket at the minute. Virat probably sits at 1. So that goes without saying that Virat is always going to be a prized wicket wherever he goes in the world, and even if he turns 50, he'll still be a prized wicket. But India have got a quality batting lineup. Rohit, they got young Shubman Gill, quality bursting through them, but we've got a quality bowling lineup. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think fans can look forward to a hell of a test series. Super Split Park has got, over the years, has proven to be a happy hunting ground for us, but I think the last time we played here, India actually beat us. But it always provides a result here, and it always provides really good cricket. So I think everybody can be really excited about what lie ahead for the 4 or 5 days starting from Boxing Day.
We have a couple of questions. One is related to you. You said that it could have been great. It had been a bigger test series that could. And this is related to Dean Elgar. Do you think that had there been more test matches in a year, like Dean is still going to play first class cricket, he could have found more motivation to continue as a Proteas player? Because 4 test matches, I think the Proteas are playing in 2024, which I think has basically lessened his motivation.
Yeah, so you started off that question really well, and then it went south. It wasn't because there was only 4 test matches that Dean decided. It was a conversation that Dean and I had. But the fact that we don't play a lot of test cricket has also got is part of the reason why we arrived at the decision that we arrived at. Okay. Dean's still going to hopefully play first-class cricket, yes. I think he's still got a lot to offer there in that space. But yes, ideally, we'd like to play a lot more test cricket, so we've got more time. The more test cricket we play, the more opportunities we've got to blood young cricketers for the future. And the less opportunities we have, like we currently do, I've got very little chance of blooding young cricketers. And sometimes decisions that, decisions like with Dean now, we arrive at those decisions because of a lack of cricket and a lack of opportunity to blood young players. It's not an excuse. It is what it is, and we've got to make do with what we got, and still at every turn want to be not only competitive but be winning test series as well.
And my second question is like how much of an advantage it is for South Africa that there is no Mohammad Shami who was in the best form of his life is not here. So
Is he not here?
No, he's not. He's not playing. So like there will be a third rookie pace specialist. So how much of an advantage is that?
Look, you always.
Shami will play his first test match I think after 2 years.
Yeah, look, Mohammad Shami, world class. But we certainly don't go sitting and I see Gaikwad is also not in the squad. We certainly don't go sitting there and saying, oh, good, he's not playing, or hoping that the best players don't play. You want to be playing against the absolute best. It's just unfortunate, like with Shami now, not being available or not making the tour, that fans in South Africa and India alike are not going to see a matchup that would have been something to behold. So we don't pay too much attention to who's in their side and who's fit and who's not fit. We prepare as we normally would against the best, because they're still going to put out a hell of a bowling attack.
Shukri talked about not necessarily having the ample opportunities to blood youngsters or rookies and that type of thing. But interestingly, though, one does actually find certain ways around it, which is now actually my question is like, we must feel really chuffed that even though some cynics were wondering what was the worth of the ODI series, just given that there wasn't much bilateral context. But now you have a Tony Gazorzi coming in, who's now established him all round as an international cricketer, and an Andre Berger who's now actually like made his mark.
Yeah, look, I think the formats are so closely are so close together now that you can almost use collateral form lines from T20s into Test cricket, from ODIs into Test cricket, and I think it's great that we've got players arriving here full of confidence. Young players like Tony, who's only had 2 test matches. Young Nande Berger, who was included in the test side the same day the ODI squads were announced. So we always knew what we had or what we have in Nandre. But great that their confidence levels are going to be as sky high. And it's always great having fresh faces that bring a lot of confidence into a group as well. So, yeah, the different formats, um, they play its part in affecting the other formats.
Coach, a couple of questions. First of all, you have spoken about the rustiness of the South African team. Some of the players haven't played cricket since the
No,
World
I
Cup.
didn't speak that. Someone else asked
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But you were asked. But some of the Indian players also, they haven't played enough cricket since the World Cup. And South Africa is one place always challenging for a subcontinental batter to acclimatize with these conditions. How big a factor this will be for you guys? How would you like to explore this vulnerability of this in fighting manner?
Yeah, I think that's got very little to do with how we prepare. We prepare they the international superstars in both teams, and one 4-day match here or there, or another couple of games here or there, doesn't make them less of a superstar, So obviously, we're going to try and exploit every avenue where we feel there might be a vulnerability. We'll try and exploit that, but it certainly doesn't lie in the fact that they haven't played much. Um, there might be something to be said for the fact that they didn't win the World Cup, um, and there might be something to be said that they might be desperate because they haven't won yet. But other than that, I don't think there's too much else.
And just another, I need to know your take on this. Like these days, some of the teams they have a certain brand of playing Test cricket, approaching towards Test cricket. I'm of course indicating towards England, the basketball approach. Do you think going forward, if we want to make Test cricket more, what should I say, more watchable for the common public, general public, do you think it is one avenue that teams which hasn't adapted the basketball approach can think about that?
I think different teams will call it different things. England obviously named it baseball. I think we are in the entertainment business, and we've got to make sure that we continually make the product an enjoyable product, not only for fans but for players alike, given the threat of all the leagues around the world that potentially can allure some of the test players. But I'm still very much convinced that test cricket is a massive thing for all our top players. And maybe little tinkerings here and there, yes. I'm avoiding the question because you asked, have we got a certain brand? I don't have a name for it, but I'm always going to go for the character over the cover driver.
Hi, coach. So my question is related to the pace attack. We know that Lumley and Rabada they have some injury doubts heading into this test. So how big a factor will be Gerald Coetzee? Because he was extremely devastating in the World Cup, bowling those middle overs, bowling those hard overs as well. So your thoughts on that, and how are you seeing his rise in international?
Yeah, Gerald debuted at this very ground, what, 8 months ago, ever long ago it was. And he's still a baby in Test cricket. He's been phenomenal every time he's stepped out onto the field, whether it be with a white ball in his hand or a red ball. And I think this is just going to be another step um, where he's going to add to that to what he brings. He brings aggression. He brings something that we've always prided ourselves on as South Africans is pace. So he brings all of those elements, and hopefully through the experience he builds in the leagues, playing for South Africa in white and red ball in a couple of years' time, he can be leading our attack. So we're expecting good things from Gerald, but so are we expecting from the rest of our pace attack as well.
Just, sorry, you didn't get to tempo when you answering the
Oh, okay.
and I just wanted to find out about, he had a good year until the World Cup, but the World Cup being the high profile event that it is, he didn't have a tournament for that. I was wondering how much that affects his confidence. I mean, times it looked a bit fragile towards the back end, you look at Afghanistan in the semi-final as well. And how you kind of, or do you feel the need to build him up? Because he's going to be in the spotlight again the next couple of weeks.
He's always in the spotlight. You've just made him put him in the spotlight against you, in a format that I know very little about, white ball cricket. No, Temba's fine. Temba's great. No need to be building up. He is the captain of our test side, just like he is the captain of our ODI side. He comes into, I don't know if we can still use form of 8 months ago, where his last knock, he got 170 or something he did at the Wanderers. So, no, certainly no demons there, and definitely no need to be building up or any special attention or special treatment. Every player, Aiden just arrived here now as well. Everybody raring to go. And yeah, I can't say some of them are best when they're fresh as well.
Great, thanks, Stu. Both of you online. Unfortunately, we don't have time for everyone, so I'm just going to give it to you. Zakia, please go ahead.
Hi, Shukri. Obviously, it's a two-match next year, so everything gets amplified in terms of whether it's a good performance or mistakes. Where do you see the point moments in the season to swing it either way? Is your bowling attack their batting part? What's the critical moment in the series that you need to win to get over the line?
I think there are going to be a lot of critical moments there. It's going to be their bowling attack against our batters. It's going to be our batting against their bowling, and maybe it's just the phrasing of it, right? Not how are we going to play their bowling, but how their bowling is going to how their bowling is going to place up to or face up to our batting, and similarly the other way around as well. So I think there's so many, what's the modern day word, matchups that this test match hinges on. Yes, it's only a 2-test series. It's a high pressured one. You go one down, you can't win the series. You go one up, you can't lose the series. So it's billed as like a heavyweight boxing bout, world championship boxing bout. So yeah, too many factors to put my finger on one or two of them.
Just can I just ask you about when you look at this as the start of a new WTC cycle, and obviously you know the challenges you've got going to New Zealand, but I think the rest of next year it's quite an exciting and interesting way to have the fixture schedule for this championship. How do you plan over the longer period? Are you looking at this as this big test series just against India, or how does it fit into your plans over the cycle?
Well, there's nothing bigger than the present, and India is present, and so that makes that the biggest test series, not only because it's India. When we leave for New Zealand in a month's time, then that becomes the biggest, and so on and so forth. So we try and stay in the present, and I know it's become cliche already, but yeah, so there's a little bit of forward planning. I obviously cannot only focus on the now. I've got to keep one eye on potentially how things are going to play out. New Zealand, the West Indies, Bangladesh, and then the home series as well. And yeah, so there is a bit of forward planning as well, Firdaus. But as it stands right now, it's all about India.
We were talking earlier about very South African voices that we know about bringing to the team. But when we talk to some of the younger guys, like the Tonys and the Lundies and people like that, they're such nice guys. And I wonder if the culture of the team, now that somebody like Dean is going out, and maybe the last member of that generation, is the culture going to change, or are South Africans always going to adhere to those qualities?
Nice guys can be resilient and all of the rest as well, Telford. You don't have to be a knob to be resilient and all the rest of it. So I think the characteristics we display when we're on the field, that needs to speak to what typically South African looks like. Dean's a great guy. I know there's a lot of stuff been bandied about his and my relationship. I think that's great for media hype. But no, I think we're going to keep the core values of what a South African cricket team is about, and like I said earlier, Dean epitomizes that, and the Tonys and some of the nicest people in the world will always embody that, and that's something that we're going to continually strive towards as well.
Hello, it's Marnus here. I just want to make actually sure that I have it right. Is Lungi and actually Rabada fit now, coach?
I did mention it earlier that they're both still in the squad, and we will make a final call tomorrow. The fact that they're still in the squad means that they are up for selection, yes.
Thanks. And then just, thank you, Marnus. And then just to wrap up.
Hello, Shukes. You mentioned about India not having won here and with 8 tours and it being a proud record and one that you want to defend. The rarest record, most unusual one between major test playing nations is the fact that New Zealand has never beaten South Africa in a test series over 70 years, home or away. And I know that you have commented on the situation with the SA20 and the contracts, and I want to know whether that's taken great discipline from you or whether you are genuinely phlegmatic about the situation.
I'm genuinely, whatever that was, phlegmatic about everything I say, Manners. Yes, I'm going to back myself to come back with something against New Zealand, and we're going to try and obviously keep that record intact when we get there. But currently, it is the India one, and again, I can sit here and we can sit and bemoan every fact. That's not typically South African. Typically South African is we've got to get up and make a way and find a way and make a plan. Yeah, so we're good to go, Manners, and we'll face that frontier when we get to the land of the long white cloud.